Welcome to our deep dive into the life and music of Maurice Ravel, a composer many consider a master of musical impressionism. We've got some really insightful material to work with today. Biography, analysis, historical context. Hopefully we get a sense of who Ravel really was both as a man and as a composer.
You know what I find so fascinating about Ravel? He embodies this paradox intensely private, but he lived during a time of huge artistic upheaval. And the way he navigated that tension, it makes his story so compelling.
I think to really grasp Ravel's music, we first need to understand the man. Let's start at the beginning, his childhood. Born in 1875 in Cibourg, France. Not exactly the heart of the Parisian art scene, was it?
Not quite. Cibourg is this small town on the French Basque Coast, a world away from the bustling artistic scene of Paris. And even his family background adds another layer to the story. Swiss father, Basque mother, so Ravel grew up surrounded by this blend of cultures, a fusion that you can even hear in his music.
It's almost as if his childhood home laid the groundwork for his later fascination with blending traditional forms with unexpected twists.
That's a really perceptive observation. You can definitely hear those early influences in pieces like Rhapsody Espagnole, where he weaves in those folk elements from Spain and the Basque region. It's subtle, but it gives his music this really distinct flavor.
Your notes mention that even as a child, Ravel's musical talent was undeniable. He was only 14 when he entered the Paris Conservatoire, a young boy thrust into the heart of the French musical world.
Can you imagine navigating the rigorous world of the conservatoire at such a young age? It really speaks to his dedication and raw talent. But his time at the conservatoire wasn't without its difficulties, as I'm sure we'll discuss.
One event that particularly stands out is his repeated failure to win the prestigious Prix de Rome, a prize meant to recognize the most promising young composers.
Exactly, and it wasn't just that he didn't win. The controversy stems from the reasons why he was repeatedly passed over. The jury considered his work too advanced, too unconventional. It didn't fit their tastes.
It's almost ironic, a prize intended to celebrate innovation rejects a composer for being too innovative. What does that tell us about the artistic climate at the time?
It speaks volumes. Ravel was pushing boundaries, challenging those established norms, and it ruffled some feathers. But this resistance, in a way, it actually propelled him forward. The controversy he generated drew attention to his work and even contributed to a shift in leadership at the Conservatoire.
It's fascinating how his unconventional approach inadvertently shook up the very institution that seemed to be holding him back. Can you tell me more about that shift in leadership?
Well, after a string of scandals and debates surrounding the Prix de Rome, Gabriel Fauré, Ravel's own composition teacher and strong advocate for his talent, became the director of the Conservatoire.
So the institution that initially resisted Ravel's innovative style ended up being led by a figure who championed that very style. What a turn of events.
It really is, and it shows that even within institutions that can seem so rigid, change is possible. It also highlights the importance of those strong mentors who recognize and nurture talent even when it doesn't fit the mold.
Now let's shift our focus to a period that undoubtedly shaped Ravel's life, World War I. His service during the war stands in such stark contrast to the world of music he inhabited.
Absolutely. Imagine a composer known for his delicate orchestrations and nuanced melodies, serving as a truck driver amidst the chaos and brutality of war. It's a jarring contrast, and without a doubt, it had a profound impact on him both physically and emotionally.
We know that Ravel's health was already somewhat fragile before the war. How did his wartime service affect him physically?
Well, the physical strain of the war, coupled with the emotional toll it took on him, just exacerbated his existing health issues. He never fully recovered from the hardships he endured.
It's a reminder that even amidst artistic achievement, life can take these unexpected turns and personal struggles can cast long shadows.
You're absolutely right. And despite the physical and emotional challenges Ravel faced during and after the war, his creative spirit persisted.
And that spirit fueled his rise in the music world. He embarked on international tours, received an honorary degree from Oxford. All these accolades that solidified his place as a major figure in 20th century music.
It's a testament to the power of his music to transcend borders and resonate with audiences worldwide. It also speaks to his resilience, his ability to create beauty even in the face of such adversity.
Now that we have a better understanding of Ravel the man, let's delve into what made his music so unique.
Ravel had this incredible knack for working within traditional structures, but infusing them with these unexpected twists. It created a sound that was both familiar and completely his own.
You touched upon his childhood exposure to different cultures earlier. How did that actually manifest in his music?
Well, take his use of modal melodies, for example. Instead of sticking to the standard major and minor scales, he drew inspiration from those ancient Greek modes. It lent his music this really otherworldly quality, this sense of timelessness.
It's like he was reaching back into the past to bring something new to the present.
That's a great way to put it. And it wasn't just about borrowing from the past either. Ravel was also a master of harmony. He often used what are called added notes, notes that fall outside the expected chord structure.
I imagine that creates a sense of surprise, almost a feeling of something unexpected.
Precisely. Those added notes create a dissonance, a tension that he often left unresolved. It added to that really unique flavor in his music. And of course, we can't forget his orchestration. Ravel understood the colors and textures of each instrument in an orchestra in the same way a painter understands his palette.
You can really hear that in pieces like Bolero, where he takes a single theme and builds it up through these subtle shifts in orchestration. It's mesmerizing the way he uses the orchestra to create this wave of sound that just keeps growing and growing.
Well, Bolero is a perfect example of how Ravel could take a very simple idea and transform it into something utterly captivating. And he achieves a similar effect in Rhapsody Espagnole, where he uses orchestration to create vivid soundscapes that evoke the spirit of Spain.
Ravel's piano works are equally compelling. They demand both technical brilliance and a real sensitivity from the performer.
Oh, absolutely. Take Jadot, for instance. This piece was inspired by the play of water in a fountain, and it requires this incredible dexterity from the pianist to create those cascading arpeggios that mimic the sound of splashing water.
And then there's Gaspard de la Nuit. That work seems to transport the listener into this realm of dark enchantment.
Gaspard de la Nuit is a truly virtuosic piece. It was inspired by a set of poems about these mythical creatures. It pushes the boundaries of what's possible on the piano, creating an atmosphere that's both haunting and beautiful.
It seems Ravel had this amazing ability to evoke imagery and emotion through his music, whether it was the shimmering water of Jadot or the dark mystery of Gaspard de la Nuit.
Absolutely. And that leads us to another crucial part of Ravel's creative life. His collaborations. He wasn't just this solitary genius holed up in a studio. He worked with other artists, particularly in the world of ballet and opera.
His collaboration with the Ballets Russes, the revolutionary dance company led by Serge Diaghilev, comes to mind. That was a particularly fruitful period for Ravel.
The Ballet Russes were a real hotbed of creativity. They brought together composers, choreographers, dancers, visual artists, and Ravel's work with them resulted in one of his most famous pieces, the Ballet Daphnis et Chloé.
What do you think made that collaboration so successful?
I think it was a meeting of the minds, a shared vision of pushing artistic boundaries. Diaghilev had this incredible eye for talent, and he recognized that Ravel could create music that was both innovative and accessible.
And Daphnis et Chloé really embodies that. The music is so evocative, it captures the pastoral setting, the blossoming romance, and the dramatic tension of the story.
It's truly a masterpiece of musical storytelling. It cemented Ravel's reputation as a composer who could create works that went beyond the traditional limits of music and dance.
And of course, we can't overlook his collaborations with the writer Colette.
Their partnership gave us two incredible operas, L'Enfant et les Sortilèges and L'Heure Espagnole. In L'Enfant et les Sortilèges, Colette wrote this whimsical story about a mischievous child whose toys and animals come to life. It was the perfect setting for Ravel's playful and imaginative music.
It's remarkable how seamlessly Ravel moved between different genres and styles, from the grandeur of Daphnis et Chloé to the intimacy and humor of L'Enfant et les Sortilèges. It seems he really mastered them all.
And you see that versatility again in L'Heure Espagnole, a satirical opera that takes place in a Spanish clock shop. Ravel's music takes on this comedic edge, almost poking fun at social conventions and the complexities of relationships.
I think these collaborations reveal a side of Ravel we might not see from just his piano or orchestral work. They show us an artist who embraced new ideas, who was willing to venture outside of his comfort zone and engage with the creative energy of others.
It's a great reminder that great art often thrives in these environments where you have all these different perspectives coming together, where there's a blending of ideas and a real willingness to experiment.
We've talked a lot about Ravel, the composer, the innovator, the collaborator, but I'd love to explore the man himself, the person behind the music. What was Maurice Ravel like as an individual?
From what we know, he was a very private person, content with a small circle of close friends. Even with all his fame and success, it seems he really valued solitude and tranquility.
He had a country retreat, didn't he? Was that his escape from the pressures of the Parisian music scene?
He did. He had a house in Montfort-l'Amaury, which is this quaint town outside of Paris. Surrounded by the peace and quiet of the countryside, that's where he seemed to find his solace and inspiration.
It sounds like he needed that separation from the noise and distractions of city life to really nurture his creativity.
It does seem to fit with his personality. He wasn't one for grand gestures or ostentatious displays. In many ways, he was a man of simple tastes who found joy in the beauty of nature and the quiet pursuit of his art.
Even with his preference for solitude, he couldn't entirely escape the tumultuous events of his time. We already mentioned his experiences in World War I. Do we know how those experiences impacted him long term?
Undoubtedly. The war took a toll on him both physically and emotionally. It's difficult to picture someone who created such beautiful, delicate music having to endure the horrors of war. Makes you wonder how that experience might have shaped his later compositions.
The final chapter of Ravel's life is a rather poignant one. It's marked by a truly tragic turn of events.
It is. He developed aphasia. It's a neurological disorder that slowly robbed him of his ability to speak and to compose. Imagine the frustration, the agony of having all those vivid musical ideas trapped inside, unable to be expressed.
It seems almost unbearably cruel, particularly for an artist like Ravel, known for his meticulous craftsmanship and attention to detail.
It is a cruel twist of fate, and it makes his final compositions all the more precious. He actually managed to complete Don Quixote Dulcinea, a set of songs for baritone and orchestra, before the full effects of his illness set in.
They must be a testament to his determination, a final act of creative defiance in the face of this devastating illness.
There was a hope that surgery might help, but it was unsuccessful. Ravel passed away on December 28, 1937. He left behind this legacy of music that continues to enchant and inspire people today.
As we near the end of this deep dive into Ravel's life and work, I'm struck by the complexities of his character and the enduring power of his music. We've explored Ravel's life, and his works uncovered the man behind the music, his struggles, and his triumphs. But I think what really stands out is the lasting appeal of his work. What do you think makes Ravel's music resonate with us over a century later?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? On the surface, I think it's his meticulous craftsmanship, his mastery of orchestration and harmony. Ravel had this remarkable ability to create these intricate musical tapestries, full of color and texture, but I have a feeling it goes beyond just technical brilliance.
I think you're right. There's a depth of emotion to his music that seems to transcend time and place. Whether it's the joy of La Valse, the haunting beauty of Pavane for a Dead Princess, or the almost hypnotic pull of Boléro, his music taps into something universal. Something we all experience as humans.
And what's so fascinating is that he achieves this without being overly sentimental or dramatic. There's this restraint, this elegance to his approach that lets the music speak for itself.
It's like he understood the power of suggestion, letting the listener fill in those emotional spaces with their own interpretations. His music invites us to reflect, to feel, to connect with something bigger than ourselves.
And that, I think, is a key to his enduring appeal. Ravel's music doesn't tell you what to feel. It invites you to discover those emotions yourself, to experience them in your own way.
There's this sense of timelessness to his work as well, don't you think? His music feels both classic and modern, drawing from tradition while simultaneously pushing boundaries.
He was very much a product of his time, influenced by the artistic trends of his era, especially the Impressionist movement in art. But he had this incredible ability to absorb those influences and make them his own, creating something that was both familiar and groundbreaking.
Like he took the fundamental elements of musical tradition and rearranged them, creating something unexpected but still grounded in the familiar.
That's a really lovely way to put it. Maybe that's the ultimate testament to Ravel's genius, his ability to create music that transcends time and place, music that speaks to something deep within us no matter who we are or what our musical tastes might be.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I find myself with a real appreciation for the artistry of Maurice Ravel, a master craftsman, a musical innovator, a deeply private individual who poured his heart into his work.
His life story is a testament to the power of the human spirit, don't you think? To create beauty, even when faced with adversity, to challenge those conventions, and to leave a mark that continues to enrich our lives.
And maybe that's the question we should leave our listeners with.
Yeah.
What about Ravel's music speaks to you? What emotions does it stir? What memories come back? What makes it feel timeless? It's something to think about as you continue to explore the world of this incredible composer.